Hi guys, welcome back to Doobrey's Day. Today on Doobrey's Day, it's the big forge build. Let's go. So as you've seen from the last couple of videos, we've been working on burners, and the point of that was to enable us to use those burners in our forge that we're going to be building for our workshop. That being said, what we have now is a Sam Fowler burner. Thank you, Sam Fowler. I won't be doing many Sam Fowlers in this video like the last one. We've got lots of steel, and I'm going to demonstrate to you roughly the plan, and I'm going to put that plan together. So first of all, we need to make a base. This is going to be our base. It's a heavy piece of, I don't know, you call it tread steel or something similar. It's about 3 or 4 mil thick. On top of this, we're going to cut down some of this edge. So that'll sit about 70-80 mil high. Then inside of that edge, in here, we're going to put a load of Kao Wool. We've got 50 mil, I think it's 2,600 degrees Fahrenheit Kao Wool. And then on top of that, we're going to put a small crust of Refractory. So that will be our base. It's quite a big base. Now, once we've built that, bear in mind it's going to be, you know, so thick, we then have a number of edge pieces of steel which we're going to turn into a box. Ba-ding! And here is our start of our box. So bearing in mind that this base is going to be covered with Refractory and Kao Wool, or Kao Wool then Refractory, we're going to have a level of Kao Wool, level of Refractory, and then we're going to have a couple of Firebricks on the side. Let me show you those. These Firebricks you can get off of eBay. I can do a link below. We're going to have one of these on this side and a half. So it's going to be slightly longer than our existing forge. And then on top of that, so I'll show you the height difference in a second, we're then going to have again some Refractory, some Kao Wool, and then we're going to have the burners sitting right on top, pushing down. Now, these burners from Mr. Fowler, they're going to push out some real heat. They're double the size of what we've got, and we're going to have 2 of them in this forge. This allows us to get up to really high temperatures, and we can control one or the other, turn one on or one off. Okay guys, so you saw we just welded up the base. If I show you that, as you see, we've only done tack welds around the edge. This is just holding the Refractory and the Kao Wool, which we're going to put in there in a moment. Over here, this is the Kao Wool. This is 50 mil. You've got to be really careful with this. That's why we've got our masks here, and we'll be wearing these. We're now going to measure this, cut this, and lay this in the bottom of that that base. So let's do that. So let's talk about this. So I did look at doing just Kao Wool at the bottom, and this is a great insulator. This is really, really good. However, it does degrade over time. So what the thoughts and the internet's told me is if you put Kao Wool down here first and then put a layer of Refractory on top, the Refractory will protect the Kao Wool so it won't get damaged. If you had a full, this is what, 8 centimeters of Refractory, A, it's going to be really expensive, but B, it will take forever to heat up and you won't actually get the insulation properties. You won't get the insulation properties of it. So we're going to do a best of both worlds. We're going to Kao Wool here, we're going to do a small layer of Refractory on top, we'll do that in a moment, and then we'll let that set for at least 72 hours. Then that's the base done, then we'll move on to building the forge. So we've got the base here, and we've got the Refractory. We're going to mix up some Refractory in this bucket. We're then going to lay it on the top and smooth it all out, so that will then protect the Kao Wool. I don't know what the combination is, but what I've been told is the Refractory should be firm enough that you can hold it and grip it, and when you let go, it should, with a little bit of a shake, break down. So we'll put, I don't know, half a bucket full in here to start with. You can always make some more up, add the water, and we'll see how we go. We've got a nice drill, be able to mix it up. Let's do that. probably slightly too wet, but I think that'll be sufficient for what we want to start with. I'd rather make it up in little batches. Okay, so we've just finished the base. We've put the refractory in. We used some wood just to level it out. Now we just got to wait 72 hours. So we're not going to move this now for 72 hours. That's the first part of the build. In a moment, we'll start on the second part of the build, which is actually the forge. We're going to weld all that together. We're going to repeat this process, but on a smaller scale for the ceiling of the forge. Okay, so we've built the base of the forge. We're now going to actually fabricate the forge itself. So I've picked up some of this, I'm going to call it tread plate, which is what we made the base out of. And I've just trimmed the edges there, and Mini Doobs is going to tidy these up for me in a moment. But in essence, we're making a box. So this is actually upside down. So if you think about it, this will be covered in Kao Wool and then Refractory with some holes for the two burners here. And then the doorway will be here. So this is actually upside down, this piece. I'll turn it around in a moment. In fact, let me just do that now and show you. So it will be that way. So what we will have is, if you come in this way, Mini Doobs, imagine this is the floor. So you have a brick here. And underneath the brick, bear in mind this is upside down, you'll have refractory, then Kao Wool. So the idea of what we've got to do now is we're going to tack weld this all together. I'm going to count the doors, make sure it's there. I'm going to have a door this end and a door the other end. And I'll use the angle grinder to do that. And then I will probably sit the bricks in to see where we are, to make sure we've got the exact dimensions as we want. So we're going to cut one of these white bricks down here on this side, a full brick and half a brick here. We'll cut the holes out of both ends, tack weld it all together, then we're going to turn it upside down, drill holes for the burners, turn it back this way again, and then we're going to put the Kao Wool in, and the burners will be coming through, so make a hole for the burners out of the Kao Wool. Then we'll make up the refractory, but I need to put in a couple of little steel extra bits here, I don't know what we're going to call them, just plant points, whereby the refractory will stick and embed the steel into the refractory so it doesn't fall out when we turn it upside down. Hopefully that makes sense. So let's get on, let's cut these doors out on both ends, and then let's tack weld it together. Let's do that. Okay, forge update. So we've now cut out the doors, and let me show you. Remember, this is upside down. So what we've done, we've just settled the bricks there just to hold it in place. There's going to be one door here. There's going to be another door here. We're now going to tack weld this all together. Just double check everything fits correctly, and then we'll weld it fully together. And then we've got to cut out the holes in this top bit here for the burners. So let's get tack welding. Okay, so this is the upturned forge. We've now completed the rough shape. What we now need to do is cut the Kao Wool and lay it in here. Then we're going to weld in some little brackets ready for the refractory to stay in there. And before we do that, we then need to drill the holes for the burners. Okay, we're just going to measure up. This is 35.5 by, let's say 35.5 by 35.5. So we'll get the Kao Wool. Protection first. So we'll put our mask on. I won't be able to speak to you just while I cut this. So I'm going to put the Kao Wool in. Okay, the Kao Wool's now in. What I want to do is I actually want to now drill the holes for the burners, and then we're going to weld in some little brackets which are here. we just cut out. These little brackets are going to be welded on, and the reason we weld these on is so the refractory has something to adhere to. So we're going to weld a load of these around the outside, like this, so the refractory has something to connect to. But before we do that, let's work on where the burners are going to go. So I've marked out where the burners are going to go. These are the flares. These have got to go through so far, and then we're going to weld on the inside this all the way around. So I'm going to take the Kao Wool out in a moment. Before I do that, I've got this these cutters, which I'll put a link to below. These cutters will cut through through the steel. So I'm going to put a hole in the middle. I'm actually going to cut, I think, from the other side this way, to make it a little bit easier, because we've got these rough bits on here. But I need to do the pilot hole in the middle first to see where I'm going to go. So I'm going to do that for these two burners. Okay, so this cutter, absolutely superb. I'll put a link to these down below. These are Chinese imports. These are about 20 quid. Perfect holes for the burners. So what we've now got to do is we're going to turn this up the other way. We've got to, in fact, no, we're going to keep it this way because the burner's going to be that way. We need to raise them up a little bit, and then we're going to weld them in into this part here. I need to come past the Kao Wool, but I also need to come past the refractory as well. So I need to come in about 50-60 mil. So let me do that. So we've done the bottom bit. I'm just going to weld around the top. I'm not the most competent of welders, but we've got them in. I'm just going to weld this top, then we can do the Kao Wool and refractory. Okay, now we've put the Kao Wool back in after we've fitted in the flares for the burners. We've got these little offcuts of metal. Now the reason we're putting these in here is to allow the refractory, when we put that in a moment, to have something to adhere to. If not, it will just fall out. So we're putting these in here at different heights. I might put some like this way as well. I'm just going to tack weld them in just so it's got something to adhere to. So let's do that. So there, now we'll weld it in. Just tack weld it in. That means that the refractory's now got something to adhere to. We now need to put a bit of paper or something in here so nothing gets down in that hole. And then we'll put the refractory in. Let's do that. Right, let's put some refractory in. This isn't going to be probably as thick as the last lot. But we do need to get it level. We've got to be careful around these burners. So I'm doing it by hand, carefully and gently. We've used a 25 kilogram bag of refractory for this build. Hopefully you heard the measurements as I was building it. And we've got to let this dry, like the base, for 72 hours minimum for it to fully dry out. Now the base has been sitting here for 3 or 4 hours and it's already got a decent crust on the top of it. And I'm hoping that by tomorrow this will have a decent crust on it as well. Okay guys, that's the end of part 1 of the forge build. There's quite a lot of work that's gone into this. It's taken us an entire day to build the forge. If you come down here please. So this is the top, which is upside down. It's drying out at the moment. Got the burners in, or certainly the flares for the burners in. This is the base. That's drying. It's got a nice crust on it. It's a little bit warm, which is quite interesting. But that's coming up lovely. On the next video, we'll put the two together, we'll assemble all of the burners, we'll slowly bring the heat up, etc, etc. Hopefully you've enjoyed this. If you've got any questions or queries, please ping me below. I'll put the details of what we've used in this build in the details below as well. Please subscribe, hit that bell when you're at 1,000 subscribers. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next week on Doobrey Say. Cheers guys, bye!